Hi guys, welcome to Bipolarcast episode. What is this? Episode 4? I think it's episode 4.
For you.
Episode 4 coming here with Nomhle from South Africa. So my name's Matt. I do bipolar. I have bipolar type 1, and talking about the ketogenic diet and metabolic treatments for that. My partner Ian, also bipolar. Well, why don't you introduce yourself, Ian? Go for it.
Hey, yes, I'm bipolar 2. This is our fourth interview with someone else's bipolar. So this has been really great. We've had some amazing feedback on the first few. We talked to someone last week who had just tried ketogenic diet for the first time, and within a couple of months said he was 80% better. And Nomhle is the right pronunciation, isn't it?
It's a good attempt.
I'm Scottish, so you have to bear with me. I can't pronounce anything. I can't pronounce normal words anyway. So Nomhle emailed me saying that she had a similar experience. So we asked her if she wanted to come on today and talk about it. So how did this start for you, Nomhle? How did you try a ketogenic diet expecting to have like mood improvements, or was it just something for your general health and then you had these mood improvements in addition to it?
Okay, so it all started with my weight. It started as a weight problem, and I was looking for a solution. And then I saw an interview. It wasn't an interview, but it was a YouTube video by Dr. Marks. She's a psychiatrist based in the US, and then she mentioned metformin in that interview. So then I decided that I wanted to research more on metformin, and whilst I was researching metformin, I then came across the whole thing around gluten, dairy, and sugar. So that is how my journey started.
What were your symptoms like before, and did you see an improvement? And if so, what was that?
Okay, I don't know whether you'll mind me going just a bit back. So it's going to be really, really back, and then I just want to take you through, and then I'll talk about the improvements that I saw. So, and the reason why I'm going back is because I'm hoping somebody will relate to the story and go, that is exactly what happened to me. Because as I was relating to you, Ian, when I was reading somebody else's story, I thought I could have written that story. It sounds exactly like my story. So I hope this resonates with someone. So Matt, I'm just going to go back a little bit, and then I will get into everything that happened from there on. As a young girl, I could say that my earliest memory is when I was 3 years old. And I had very bad migraines. So that is why I remember parts of my childhood very well, because the migraines were that bad. And so those took me until I was about maybe 8 years old. I kept on having migraines. And then I then had an egg allergy. So eggs had to completely be eliminated from my diet. But soon thereafter, I think I was around 11 years old, I started having a problem with tonsils. And they were really bad to an extent where it was a regular thing for me to miss school. And but then the migraines started to be less frequent. So and then I had the migraines, the tonsils more frequently than I did the migraines. And then at around, I could say it was around at around 16, I started having a problem with period pains. So the tonsils went down a bit, the migraines went even further down, And then now I was having severe period pain. So I started my periods at about, I think it was 12 or so. So then, so it was quite a surprise for me to then suddenly have period pains. It really seemed to come out of nowhere. And then, but I need to mention that I had been vegetarian since I was 11 years old. And this was because of spiritual reasons. I'm Seventh-day Adventist, and they're very big on vegetarianism. I don't know whether you're familiar with the church. So I was vegetarian since around that time. And then, so yes, it was a period pains from around age 16. And then I had my son in 2010. And then in 2014, my family decided to start a bakery, but we were running it from home at that point, and I was the designated baker. And then as we started the whole baking thing, I now in hindsight, which is crazy, in hindsight, I realized that it is around the time that we started baking that I started having, I could say, like hallucinations, hearing voices, you know. And then it got worse. It became a severe tummy ache. So every time I ate something, I had a very bad tummy ache, to a point where I decided that I was going to buy these like shakes to replace meal replacement shakes. And then and then after the tummy ache, I got a sensation like water was running down my leg, and I became very emotional. So I would cry, just randomly start crying, and the hill started going down from there. And then I then eventually got a psychiatrist. This is now in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. And then the whole process of trying to get on and off medication, finding the right dose, finding the right medication for you. And I was very grateful because I was able to sleep for the first time in about a year and a half of my illness. And so I was very, very grateful that I found a solution. But then in 2018, I decided, okay, I want to break from the medication. And that was motivated because I had severe acne and also by weight gain. So I decided I just want to break, let me just be me. And yes, that after a year, my symptoms came back. They came back in the form of a migraine with aura. So then I went to the psychiatrist, and she said, yeah, it sounds like mania. And then, so I was back on the meds, and she put me on 0.5 milligrams of Risperdal. And that solved everything. But to everybody's amazement, it was a very, very low dose. So usually people are started on about 1 or whatever, but I was on 0.5, and I didn't have any bad reactions after that, except a year later, this is now in 2020, I get on the scale and I weigh a nice 63. So 63 kilograms is not a lot for the average person, but I am 1.43 meters in height. So I'm a very tiny person. 63 is a lot for me, and I was not happy with the weight. So then I started with I decided, okay, let me change my diet, let me count calories. And I just couldn't. There was no way that it was going to work. It had gotten to the point where I would wake up at night craving with whatever it was, whether it was rice. We also have pap, which is like a corn, crushed corn that is made into porridge, a stiff porridge. So I would wake up in the evening, 1, 2 a.m. and go and nibble on that because the craving is so severe. So the weight was just not going to give way. And then, so I kept on trying with the whole weight thing, and it was just not shifting. Tried working out and everything. And then I came across the episode by Dr. Marks where she was saying, metformin. So then I did research on metformin, and then I decided that that is what I'm going to try. The first doctor didn't want to give me, the second doctor didn't want to give me metformin, and the third doctor gave me metformin. And then I came back home with the metformin, and I decided, let me read a bit more on the metformin. And then that reading process is what led me to the gluten, dairy, and sugar issue. So this is now late in July of 2021. So that's this year. Just a quick detour. It's quite intimidating to share my story because I can't be like, it's 3 years of doing this and it's working, and I don't have such a testimony. It's been a few months. I'm getting into my 6th month of doing this, so it's very early. And so maybe somebody may wonder, why am I even sharing my story when it's so early, quite frankly. And the reason is I have seen a very big difference in my life, and I'm hoping that maybe my sharing will make somebody get onto the same journey and see how it works for them as well. It might work for you, it might not work for you, but this is my story. So this is 2nd week of June 2021, and then now I'm reading up on the gluten and the dairy and the sugar, and I'm overwhelmed. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So yes, my journey started with a weight loss, and then it just snowballed and it became something totally different. And then I decided on the two last days of June, I said, okay, I'm going to eat everything that I love currently. That's chocolate, biscuits, you name it. I'm just going to have it because I'm about to go on a very stringent lifestyle thing that is happening. So yes, I had an idea that it could affect how I experience bipolar, but it's the whole journey started with weight loss. Yeah. In conclusion, Matt.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, the metformin thing, we should come back to that because there's some research happening on this. So you came to keto through learning about metformin and the effects it's having on lowering blood sugar. I love the YouTube channel. Is it Tracy Marks you were on?
It's Tracy Marks.
Yeah, she's the best. Tracy's always got your back, no matter what. She's got videos on everything. She's brilliant.
Yeah.
So, and she's been doing that for 10 years. She's great. So when you started keto, what was the first time you noticed a difference, that something had changed or something was different?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I invited my sister to join me because I figured this is going to be very difficult for me to do it alone. I wanted somebody to hold my hand. And you'll understand why I'm mentioning my sister just now. This is day 1, day 2. I go to sleep. It must have been around 1 a.m. or so. I'm woken up by a sensation. I describe it as a lifting of a curtain because that is exactly how I experienced it. It was just, it felt like the curtain had been like this, and then it just went progressively like that. And that sensation woke me up. And I sat up in my bed and I thought, oh my goodness, this diet has led me to mania. And now I was scared. My heart is beating very fast. I'm thinking, what a mess. I worked myself into an episode. They can get nasty, as you know. So I think, okay, I'm sitting in my bed and I'm thinking, what a mess, what a mess, what a mess. And then several minutes later, I speak to myself and I'm like, no, let's try and fall back to sleep. And if you sleep, that'll be a sign that it's not mania. And I fall back asleep. I wake up in the morning. This is July is winter in South Africa. So you're not expecting it to be all bright and everything. I wake up and everything looks brighter. It feels like it sounds like a lie until it has happened to you. I wake up and everything looks brighter. The colors are popping out. The blue of the sky is just there. My room has got elements of white, as you can see, and everything just looks brighter. And I think, oh my goodness, I'm manic. And I stay there for 2 hours, scared of getting out of bed because I think I am manic. Yeah. So this happened on the third day as the day was progressing. And I decided, okay, I'm going to wake up from here and I'm going to watch how I act throughout the day. And then we'll see whether I can sleep at night. And then I proceeded with my day. 8 o'clock, because I wanted to see what's going to happen. 8 p.m., I'm in bed. I want to see, am I going to be able to fall asleep? Lo and behold, I fall straight to sleep. I'm thrown aback by that. Yeah, just remembering it's crazy. Yeah.
So that's so interesting, because in the so we've been looking at what people are saying online about ketogenic diet, what people have been talking about, and they often mention that the transition into keto, and I know that this has been spotted by their practitioners, you can feel almost like it has there's a mania in transition sometimes, or like a hypomania. So some people will, and there's some relevancy to the epilepsy literature as well, because it takes about 2 or 3 days to establish the kind of seizure control, because your ketone levels are coming up. And some people, and a lot of people that talk about doing this diet with bipolar, notice in the first 3 days there's a sort of transition where you can feel hypomania or elevated mood, but there's something happening in the brain that's changing, and you can feel it, but then it tends to settle down after 3 or 4 days. Is that kind of what you experienced? Did it then settle into a sort of a better mood, or how did it change for you over the first few days?
Okay.
Or did it remain the same?
I thought maybe I adapted to the change, not necessarily that maybe I went back to my former state. And the reason why I say that is because I used to struggle with getting out of bed in the mornings, but this is definitely not the situation anymore. I used to think that I was an owl, but now I'm up 5:45. So I'm not sure whether it goes back to what it used to be, or there's like an adjustment. But for me, the experience is that I adapted to the new me. And I would like to add, maybe just continuing with how then I experienced it, is that it must have been 2 weeks later, I'm sleeping. I don't know whether anybody else can also testify to the fact that the transition happens when you're sleeping, or whatever the case might be. I don't know, but I'm sleeping, and then I hear very audibly something is going on. And again, I wake up thinking, oh my goodness, I've just become manic and I'm panicking. Oh my word, oh my goodness. And it turns out that it's my cousin who is doing his night routine. He's washing his face, whatever, preparing for bed. And this is something that he does every evening. But for the first time this evening, I heard it very loud. So just to put this into context, I have tinnitus as well. So, okay, so then I wake up, it's very audible. I'm surprised, oh my goodness, then I realize my hearing has improved. So when I explain it, it feels like that thing where after you've been in an aeroplane and there's been that change in, I don't know what they call it, and your ears feel like they're plugged. Yes. And then you do that whole yawning, like you're yawning to just pop your ears. So it felt like I had been living with this shut, how do I put this? With like a plug in my ear, and now this plug is removed. So I wake up the following day. I'm very happy about my hearing. And another thing that has happened with regards to my hearing is that now I'm able to listen to music without getting very irritated. I don't listen a lot because I don't want to drive myself crazy either. But now I'm able to listen to music and really appreciate it. And so it's been progressive. It's been progressive. I mean, I'm ready to share even more things that I've experienced since then. But over the weeks, that's one of the things that has happened. The hearing has improved.
I find it so interesting hearing about weird things that can happen from this diet when your body adapts to ketones that haven't necessarily been studied, and people's experiences are different. I think that's fascinating. One other question I have, though, is I remember when I started the diet in January, I live with a bunch of people in their 20s. And so, as you can imagine, there are like carbs all over the house. There's bread everywhere, cookies, ice cream, soda, everything you can imagine. So it was kind of hard for me the first couple months having to, not eat any of this. Was that hard for you, having to adapt and be strict with the diet and things like that?
I had a crutch, and maybe that's the advantage that I have, because the metformin removed the cravings that I had for the carbs and the sugar. And also when I saw the change on the third day, that was my cue to hold on. In terms of temptation, not so much. And I can probably attribute that to the fact that I did have the metformin as a crutch. And yeah.
Metformin
Oh,
is
and my sister, because I had my sister who had to live the same thing. So I had crutches on both sides.
That's awesome. The metformin is so interesting because there's a study just come out. Well, it's to be published by someone called Cynthia Calkin, and she was the first scientist that kind of brought attention to insulin resistance, really, in bipolar. She was showing that insulin resistance is in over 50% of people with bipolar. And she said, metformin is working on insulin resistance. So what would happen if we gave this to some bipolar patients? And they haven't released the paper, but they presented it, I think, at a conference, and I saw the notes from it. And they were saying they were getting results they've never seen with metformin, that people were going into like significant remission on metformin. So we need to wait for the paper, but it sounds very interesting and promising that could be helpful. So, but you were very ahead of the curve on that, because that's like the first study I've seen on that.
Wow. Very, very interesting.
Hopefully it could be something, because you can only imagine if metformin was helpful for bipolar, how that could change things. So we'll wait and see the paper, but very interesting. So what happened from there? Did you decide to stay on the diet because you felt there was an improvement, or did you feel that it was giving you some mania? What did you feel after that?
I had more reasons to go on. And then I realized, I need to add this. I am very pro medication, and I do believe that medication has a place, a role to play. How do I put this? So I don't want this to be mistaken as me encouraging anybody to get off their medications or to do this diet with the expectation that they will get off their medications. I'm not anti-medication. So as the days progressed, one day I was talking to my sister and my cousin, and then I realized I hadn't had a nightmare in a long time whilst on this diet. And this realization then made me decide, I want to see how I will do without my medication, the 0.5 milligrams of Risperdal. So about probably in September, I decided, let me remove the Risperdal and see how I do. Very, very risky. I do not encourage anyone to do it, but I'm a risk taker, very, very much. So I did it, and so far, so good. I'm still on the diet, very, very strictly so, to a point where if it's processed, I don't consume it. So if it has been, I take my food as natural as possible. If it needs cooking, I'm the one who's going to do the cooking. Yeah, so I'm still on the diet, and that's the other change that I've made. And I stopped the pill in September, and since then I can say I've only seen good things happening. Yeah, I haven't had an episode. I haven't struggled with sleeping. I'm not having nightmares. Another big thing, feeling suicidal. Haven't had that as well on the diet. Very incredible, because at least once a week I would be feeling suicidal. Once a week I would be feeling suicidal, and now you're just trying to hold on to every reason that you have for living. But I haven't had that since.
That's amazing. So that was a major difference you noticed from before and after the diet, was that went away? Or
Yes. Yeah.
I think because we always try and say in the podcast as well that we are never saying that something like ketogenic diet is a cure for bipolar or for anything else, but it can make a significant difference. And it seems to be a lot in the depression side of the illness, that people who had very severe depressions, the ketogenic diet helps to lift it. And so I think that it's really interesting what you're saying, that you came at this from looking at medication first with metformin, and then you must have been really reading about this, because a lot of people wouldn't even understand that could be useful. So that's very cool. We a lot of people, they wouldn't understand that at all. So, and then you went on the diet and you noticed a shift. And so what you're describing sounds very similar to what a lot of people note in sort of case reports of bipolar. So the first case study that came out of bipolar and ketogenic diet was these two patients by someone called James Phelps. Have you seen this at all? It was one of the first studies, case studies on bipolar, and a lot of
tell me more. I think I might know about it.
Yeah, so a lot of them notice this kind of 2 to 3 day shift into ketosis, where ketones come up and glucose comes down, and then after that is when the mood stabilization would begin in these case studies, and then after that there can be a continual kind of there can be a sort of continual mood improvement if people stay with their ketones high. So it's really interesting that you experienced that. And I totally relate to what you said when you transitioned. It did feel like a kind of curtain coming off. You're like very much of the feeling that this is something I've never experienced. I remember just, I was sitting on a bus and I remember looking out the window and just feeling like, oh, I've never noticed that you can just feel kind of calm and peaceful before. It was always, so I totally relate to that feeling of the curtain lifting. So how would you say it's in your daily life? Has been doing keto made things easier, or has it made some people find it actually tricky because you've got to do all this meal preparation? How has it affected your day-to-day life?
Every Friday, Saturday, some Sundays, I go out for lunch, dinner, whatever the case might be. And it's so, I feel like it's got an anti-social element to it, because now you are sitting there and I don't want to mess with anything, so I'm not having juice. I'm ordering water and you get some side eyes like, what's wrong? Come on, it's a weekend. No, I'm not interested. And then it's time to order the main meal, and then you are like, okay, I'll have the the Greek salad without the cheese, and please don't add anything. I'll put the oil and the salt myself. Just put the everything else. And now you are that person at the table who hold that, don't add that, and yeah, it can be a bit isolating, but because so the people around me have been very understanding, and I figured that it's because of the change that they see. So suddenly I have a sense of humor, something I didn't have, and they appreciate that and they love that. So they take it, you know, they're very understanding with that regard. Somebody wants to surprise you with a cake or something. Just this past Sunday, I went and I visited my aunt. Actually, I was dropping off my son who wanted to play there, and they were having a birthday, and I didn't want to offend anyone. So I said, oh my goodness, I'm just here to drop my son, but I'm kind of like in a rush because, you know, I don't want to mess with the mood at a birthday, especially with people who don't truly understand what's going on. It would have been better if I had told them before that this is what I'm doing. So yeah, what I'm just basically trying to explain is that it can be a bit isolating socially. People can give you side eyes, but those who know you before and fully appreciate the change that they've seen happen because of the diet are very supportive, and they're able to bear with this picky you. It's a picky you.
And what would you say they notice is different when they're spending time with you?
Okay. Okay.
Apart from having like 5 avocados on every plate and butter everywhere.
So I mean, in terms of the experience of me, it's certainly that as I just walk in, I don't know if I could share some of my before pictures, but my skin is much clearer. Everybody wants to know why is that. If they haven't seen me, whoa, why do you have such good skin? And then, oh my goodness, I have to tell them because we're about to have a meal together so that they understand what it has done for me. And then, yeah, you're right about the avos. I was just asking yesterday, somebody was, we made a bet. We were doing the rock, paper, scissors, and they said, if you win, I'm going to buy you a packet of avos. And so that's because there are just so many avos. And I mean, isn't it nice that you can just sprinkle so much olive oil on your food and not feel guilty about it? So that's the other thing. You pour oil and everybody's like, oh my goodness. And you're like, I'm officially the healthiest person on this table. So please just, so those are some of the changes.
I like to think it's just inspiring for them, like, oh, this is possible to eat that much butter. We are always, yeah. I'm always amazed at restaurants when you're trying to like keto up your meal. Like if we go to Five Guys, I'll order triple bacon, you know, cheese, everything else on it, and people will kind of like just watch this thing being constructed. But I think people will kind of respect it in time, because if they see that you're committed to it, it kind of becomes something that they learn about and understand. I know Matt found the same when he was starting, like especially living with 20-year-old college students. That must have been crazy.
When I went to Mexico shortly after I started the diet, I would go to the restaurants and I would order like avocado, some hamburger patties, and then I would, because I was trying to get some calories, I'd ask them to bring me a bowl of melted butter, and I would just take it like a shot to get the calories and to get my ketones up. And that was great. People would look at me like, what are you doing, man? This is ridiculous. I said, oh, ketogenic, man. I got to get my fat.
That's awesome. Like, yeah, that's an amazing one. I've never done that before, but maybe I need to try it. Was it just in a shot glass or in
a little bowl of butter, and I would just, take it down with the patties, and it was great.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, we've been trying to find interesting food since starting this, because there's tons and tons of recipes you can use, but I always get drawn towards the kind of keto desserts and baking and stuff, and it always kicks me off keto, the almond flour things and the coconut flour stuff. Have you tried that?
I look forward to being that brave. I don't want to throw myself off. I mean, it's so early and I'm truly enjoying the benefits, you know. Maybe one day I'll be as brave to start having keto desserts.
Yeah, it's very risky territory. Like the difference between, I've measured it with like almond flour. You're amazed at how many almonds you're actually able to eat when they're ground up like that. It's quite incredible, and the carbs in that adds up. So are you absolutely strict keto now? Do you think it will be for years to come, or do you think you might try coming off it at some point, or is this you set for life on keto?
It's very difficult to determine what you'll do in the future. And this is because I set a period of 2 years to see how I react, whether I'll be able to sustain the wellness that I'm experiencing, and what will happen in terms of the episodes. But in terms of commitment to seeing it through, I'm definitely in. And this is how I can live like this. I recently saw a dietitian to help me balance in terms of nutrition and everything like that. So it's definitely something that I can do to an extent where I'm even willing to not be. I'm very vegan at this moment, so I'm willing to incorporate meat if this is the wellness that I will be experiencing. So maybe after 2 years, I'll get in touch with you and still have the same story to tell.
We'll have to recommend. There's some good keto meters and things like this. Do you measure at all? You can get these devices that measure your keto and glucose levels. Have you ever tried those?
No, I haven't. But to kind of like push myself right into it, what I have done is I have some MCT oil. So I'm hoping that they are making sure that I am in ketosis, but that's something that I can incorporate into my life and maybe measure them for a month or two to see whether I'm actually where I am in terms of ketosis. Yeah.
I started out measuring my ketone levels, and I was frequently above 2 millimoles and very high. And then as I progressed month after month after month after month and stabilized, now I find that even at like 0.7, 0.8 in a moderate ketosis, I actually am symptom free and I can kind of coast there. So Ian, I don't actually worry too much about all the almond flour, some of the desserts, as long as in general I avoid bulky carbohydrates like potatoes, rice, sugar, whatever, all that stuff. I find that it's okay. But what are because you're doing a vegan keto, so I assume it's a lot of avocados, a lot of butter, a lot of oils. What are some of your other favorite things to eat? Because I know most people who do it like to eat meat.
Okay, so I have a lot of nuts. I do have a lot of avos. So it's the olive oil. I make sure that I always have a spoon of MCT every day. That's in the morning. Later on, another spoon of the MCT as well. My favorite food at the moment, now that I've done this, it has to be coconut. The coconut cream. I like that. Yeah.
And have your symptoms gone like full remission? Like you haven't seen any resurgence of any mania or moderate depression since you started the diet or anything like that?
They are completely gone.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, in the process, I've even gained a sense of humor. So that's how gone they are. And much to my mom's surprise, even the things that used to stress me, I don't know whether anybody else can relate. So maybe what's stressing you is work, and every time you think about a certain problem at work, it has the potential to drive you straight into depression. So even when I am thinking about the things that would trigger being suicidal and things like that, I just don't go into an episode.
That's amazing. I mean, yeah, it's such an odd thing because you wouldn't think a diet could do something like that. You know, it doesn't seem obvious that that'd be something you would try. It's certainly not something I ever considered growing up. And it's remarkable because it might, what we hope is that it will shine some light on what causes these conditions, you know, like maybe it will show some different mechanism or some different way that these work that we hadn't expected. And so again, we never say that like ketogenic diet is just the absolute cure for any condition, but it really helps people a lot. And there's something about it that's really interesting that we need to research. So something that me and Matt are working on with the research side of it is speaking to people like yourself that have had this experience and trying to share these stories so that we can raise attention to it and just start a conversation and say, what's happening? Why are people having this experience? And what does it say about the illness that someone could go from being suicidal to not suicidal just because of going on a ketogenic diet? You know, it's so fascinating. So we're doing scientific studies over the coming year to try and, so we're having 25 people with bipolar go on a ketogenic diet, and they're going to be supervised by dietitians, and we're going to go through MRS brain scans and take blood tests and we're going to measure before and after what happens when you go on keto. And so it'll be really interesting to find out what is this doing to the brain, because clearly in epilepsy it can stop people having seizures. So there's something fundamental that's changing in the brain. We just don't know what it is yet. So it's funny because on the outside it doesn't seem like a scientific thing, just eating, you know, a high fat, low carb diet, but it does something very fundamental in the energy metabolism of the brain that we can research. So we're excited about finding more about it, and hopefully on this podcast we can update as to what we learn as we go. But thank you so much for sharing your story and coming on to talk about it. And it's fantastic that you've felt so much better with this. And yeah, if we can support or help with anything, you should give us a shout. I should send you a ketone meter for a start. Those are really helpful. You can measure it, and you measure your, if you want to look even more weird when you're at a restaurant, you can take out your ketone meter and start taking measurements. That's what I do. If I'm not piling butter and everything else. So I used to have 2 meters because you have to have a separate glucose and ketones one. Now I've got one. So my wife was always saying, Ian, do we really have to measure this every mealtime? I was like, yeah, of course. And then she started keto herself, and she enjoyed it, and she likes it as well now. So yeah, thank you so much, and we'll keep you updated with what we learn about the research on this, and hopefully we'll meet many more people that are having this same experience. Matt, did you have any questions? I promised normally would be an hour, but are you okay for time normally?
I'm okay. Okay, let me just listen to Matt. But what I wanted to say, just quickly, sorry, Matt, is that it's a very exciting thing. I mean, I was so excited to hear about the study that you guys are doing, and I was even willing to participate. Unfortunately, I'm so far away, but I can't wait for the results.
Well, I think there'll be many, and there's many different studies that, and this is, maybe Matt could say more about this, but there's studies happening in different countries that you're involved in, and so maybe there will be one that will be accessible. At the moment, I think they're in Scotland, Australia, America, and there's a trial happening at Stanford. But hopefully there will be more around the world as this goes on, and you could participate in one and learn more about this.
Yeah, there's a trial happening over here, Stanford in California, and it's so fun because this is such a fledgling community of people who are treating this disorder with a metabolic intervention. And for me, it just feels like such an obvious thing. And for whatever reason, the doctors have neglected and they won't make the connection and the association. This can actually help. And I'm hopeful that in the next couple of decades, as there's going to be a revolution, people are going to start to see that this can seriously help. And so it's so fun. We get to do this podcast and we get to talk to people who've had this, and the testimonials are so like amazing, and the success people have had, that hopefully it will just get the ball rolling and people start to see that this can actually be a serious treatment and that the doctors won't be averse. Because a lot of the time, like you talk with just an average psychiatrist about this kind of intervention, and they'll say, this is like ridiculous. You know, we need to prescribe medication. That's the way we're taught to treat mood disorders, is prescribe a medication to stabilize mood. And so for whatever reason, society, there's no impetus to view diet as something that can seriously affect your mood, which obviously we're starting to realize it can. So yeah, studies are happening all over Stanford. You know, we got this big study and trying people out, and hopefully in the next few years, some serious intensive research will come out that can show that it can be a serious treatment. So yeah, it's super exciting.
Yeah, I can imagine being part of it. I constantly go into the YouTube channel to check whether there's a new video so that I can hear somebody else's story. Interestingly, when I started with the diet and I started seeing the changes in my life, I said to my mom, I'm not going to share them with anybody because I was so scared that people were going to think I am lying. And I don't know, I think when I was writing to you, Ian, when you first suggested the interview, I was very reluctant, you know, because I felt like people were going to judge me and they were going to think that I've got other motives, or I'm like, I just thought people are going to say that I'm lying. And I didn't want anything to poke holes into my joy at that level. So I was not willing to share my story. But when I saw the YouTube video where you are explaining, Ian, about the two engines that the brain can use and everything like that, oh, that is so interesting. I had to reach out. I had to comment on that video. It was so exciting. I was very happy to see that. Finally there was somebody who was putting into words something that I was experiencing. Just to maybe it would, I mean, if for nothing else, if you're overweight like I was because of the medication, get on the diet because of the weight loss benefits that you will experience. So I went from 63, and as we speak, I weigh 46 kilograms. It's not too little, like I said, because of my tiny frame. And also what I want to mention is with regards to the period pains, those are completely gone. So to the ladies who might watch this, if you have a problem with period pains, try it. You know, if you're watching because of the bipolar and you have period pains, try it. You just might score, you know, 2 goals in one shot. If you have weight problems because of the medication, you might just score because of that. So I've gone from obese to what is that, BMI? It says normal weight. So now I've gone into normal weight space. Yeah.
It's interesting because it, like you say, it has an effect on the whole body, ketosis. It's not just one part of it. And it is really interesting because we just increased the amount of carbs we eat so much in the past, 50 years or so. And we're eating more carbs than we ever have in history. And it's kind of well understood that this causes diabetes and it affects all different kinds of parts of the body. But it's really overlooked that it causes any significant effect on the brain. And there's a number of reasons for that, but it's now becoming very clear that it does have a serious effect on the brain. And so people experience all kinds of benefits, weight loss. I lost about 40 pounds doing it. People experience, all kinds of things kind of resolving, because this carbohydrate load is such a stress in the body, and the high glucose, it just puts a stress in the whole system. And when you take that away, it's amazing the diversity of things people can notice getting better. And so I completely relate to what you're saying about people being skeptical about it, because they're like, oh, is this a miracle diet that just fixes everything? But it's not. If you look at what it actually is, it's just removing this systemic stress on the whole body, which you would imagine would make a lot of things easier, so it's exciting to see that it's had so many different impacts on your life like that as well, and I'm sure many people can relate. I want to be respectful of your time. Are you okay? We're at 5 o'clock.
I almost got a shock. I'm like 5 o'clock away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with time. My evening is clear.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you have another question or two, I can still answer that. But I just also wanted to highlight something that we completely ignore. So sometimes I feel that we ignore, at least I did. When we're after eliminating the 3, and then I noticed that my son has a reaction to the same things as well. So there'll be like some minor bloating when he has bread or something with wheat. He has an adverse reaction to dairy products and everything like that. And then I read a study that said that the kids tend to inherit the mom's metabolism, or the system, the structure thereof. And so if you also just calling out to the moms, really, if you're realizing that maybe you have an adverse effect to something, or you realize that your child has an adverse reaction to something, and you have a mental illness, because sometimes you completely ignore what something is doing to you, like you just grin and bear it. Like I used to have a problem of bloating when I had bread, but I would still continue eating the bread. So if you recognize it in your child, possibly you are also having a reaction, maybe at a lower grade, but it's still possible. So just a call to the moms to possibly look at that. If you have a problem with nightmares, like I mentioned, completely gone. I haven't had a nightmare since I started on the diet.
That's amazing. It's yeah, and it's when you start looking at how bipolar travels in the mum's line as well, it travels in the maternal line. So mums who have bipolar tend to have increased risk. It's still a small risk, but there's an increased risk through this kind of maternal transmission. And my family, that's the case. There's sort of mental health stuff going on in my mother's side. In fact, I lost my uncle to suicide because of this. But it'd be interesting to know whether some of these things you can inherit from your mum's side of the family are metabolic, like you say, or to do with maybe you can inherit some of these things as well. But it's very interesting. But I mean, on the flip side of that as well, there's really positive things about this. If you look at a study of Nobel laureates, you can see that the people with high creativity often have bipolar in their family. So there's a kind of, there's good and bad to it, but the inheritance. But yeah, thanks for shouting out to the mums as well. My wife became a mum during the lockdown for the first time, so I feel the solidarity.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Not to be advised having a kid during a national lockdown, I would add, but it worked out very well, so we're happy. But yeah, it was something we spoke about our last episode, because the guy we're interviewing was someone that went on the Stanford trial, and he was saying that he never wanted to have kids because of bipolar. And he was saying now he feels completely fine about it. He feels like, oh, there's something, we know more about this, and there's something you can do about it that really helps. So he's like, I'm definitely going to have kids now, and I'm definitely going to, and I'm not worried about my daughter at all, because I really feel like there is things you can do, and we're also going to learn so much more about this in the next 10 years. And if she did have it, even though it's a very small chance, I'm still not worried about her future in the way that I would have been before. So we held off having kids for quite a while because of that, and now we're having loads. So it's or at least that's what that's what she says. So we're very grateful for that, because it just means the family side of it affects the whole family. So
some of these testimonials we've heard are so miraculous. Like, Ian and I, we've talked to people who've done this, but it almost seems like too good to be true. And obviously, I've talked with, other doctors who treat this, the metabolic intervention, and not going to work necessarily for everyone. And it's going to affect different people differently, depending on the nature of the illness and different things like that. But really, I think the general consensus seems to be like, if you have bipolar or some sort of mood illness and struggling, this can be something done hopefully under the supervision of a doctor and a dietitian and a prescriber who know what the meds are, and obviously not going off the meds immediately or things like that. Something that like is worth trying. I guess my final question would be what kinds of things in your life, like things you want to accomplish, or your goals in your life, or your relationships or your lifestyle have changed as a result of doing the diet now?
Okay. I just, you know how mental illness can steal some of the best years of your life, your 20s. I'm now like in my 30s, and I look back at my 20s, and my life looks like it was on a standstill. It's one of the things that used to cause me to cry and bemoan the fact that I have bipolar. So I was busy with my exams now, Matt, and I for about 3-4 years, every time I attempted to do my exams, I would have an episode. This time I did my exams off the medication, and I finished all my exams. I had 12 exams and I didn't have an episode. So it's not necessarily catching up, but it's not necessarily catching up to my peers, but I am looking forward to getting my life in order. I think you've heard me mention my mom and my cousin and everything like that. So, and it's, so I hope to gain independence and be able to do all the things that I want. For an example, like getting my own place, because one of my worries was that I couldn't move out because I have a son, and what if I become suicidal and then now there's a child, and can become a very messy situation. But now I have enough confidence that I just finished my exams, just possibly I can be able to live an independent life, the life that I envisioned for myself.
I just want to encourage you as well. You've not missed out on anything. Your life will be so. You've got such an amazing story to share, that you've been through all this in your 20s, and that itself is a remarkable thing, to have gone through such a severe illness and then to get better from it and to go back to school and to, but that story is powerful for people. And so please don't feel like you've missed out on anything, because I know a lot of people do feel like that with bipolar. It robbed them of some years. But I think it's a really powerful story you have to share. And even you speaking to us on here will reach lots of people that will be affected by this, and hopefully makes different changes in their own life. So I just think you've got amazing years to come, and I really hope it's going to be fantastic. I think you'll be surprised as well when you've been through. It's like bipolar is like wearing like a 200-pound backpack, and you're in this marathon of life. So you're trying to run at the same pace as everyone, and you've got this invisible weight that's kind of holding you back. But once you throw it off, it can be amazing how much endurance you've developed, and how many coping skills and how many things you've learned through that then benefit you when you're well. So I really hope you find that, I hope things go very well in the future for you.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you. I appreciate that question as well, Matt. It's very encouraging. I'm about to plan my 2022, so yeah, I look forward to that. I actually look forward to that a lot. And also, I just want to, I mean, there are skeptics out there who might say, oh, come on, it could be, what is that effect called? I forgot what that effect is
Placebo.
called. Yes, the placebo effect. So it might be the placebo effect. And I'm saying, if it's the placebo effect, like, if placebo does this, then I'm really happy about it. But it certainly isn't. And it's because the weight is physical. Everybody sees the weight change. The acne is right on my face. Everybody sees that. You can interview members of my family and people around, in terms of my social structure, and they will tell you that they have seen a change in terms of how I am around them as well. So yeah. So I just want to say that it certainly doesn't feel like a placebo, because some of the changes that I experienced, I was not expecting. For an example, with the nightmares, I didn't expect that to change at all, but it did. And so that is testimony to the fact that this does actually work.
Thank you so much for sharing with us, and we will, we'll keep updating with more interviews with people and more science about how this might be working, and hopefully we'll learn more as we go and find out. But thank you so much for coming on to talk to us, and I hope the exams continue to go well, and you continue to feel really good on keto.
Thank you, Nomhle.
Thank you, Matt and Ian. Keep well. Please do keep me posted.
We'll do. We'll keep in touch. Thank you. And I'll send you a ketone meter. So yeah. You can start measuring. Great to speak to you.